I have a very interesting theory as it regards to models. And again, I don't want to assume anybody's like mental state or anything, but I think there's a bunch of models that are autistic or neurodivergent. But again, being women, they don't have access to the autonomy of even knowing their own awareness. And then again, the autonomy to accommodate that. So when you are very beautiful, it's easy. I mean, convenient to lean on, okay, well, at least I can lean on this to be compensated, especially in a world where women aren't given opportunity. So let's sit on that first and then let that be the foundation of the conversation. This is going to add on to me saying the recession is going to bring a new age of content creators because the old ones have either dried out because they have no content, they were just fresh faces that we needed to leverage into a new trend, or they decided to stay silent during like very important political cultural moments of the past 18 months, 2 years. So it's like, why would we care about you other than being a mannequin that sells products or sells political agenda at the end of the day? Because if you aren't speaking, that's damn near the same thing as supporting the other side. Now, how does this conversation pertain to the models that I'm speaking about? And mind you, before I even get into this, the ladies in my community and the ladies just in the world, you probably already know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm more so speaking because the people in my community are a handful of different expressions of people, and I also have a handful of guys that also listen to me. So with the fortune of having that kind of influence, I want to make sure that everybody in my community, and also a bunch of us are neurodivergent, so I want to make sure we are all on the same page with this type of stuff. But to not get too apart from the point, I believe people like Rada, and again, Julia Fox is already kind of in this already. And even like Mia Khalifa, I don't know if you've seen like the post that she makes on TikTok, but this is going to be the day and age where you finally get to see what these really, and I hate to even call it like this, but this is from the just like an objective perspective, when you get to see what the trophies of patriarchy that were either used to sell an idealistic image of marriage or used to sell products through like men desiring access to that woman or that woman by proxy, you're going to see what a model cares about beyond what she has the potential to be compensated for. This leverages us into the conversation, saying that I believe like models like the people that I just described. And again, don't separate people from like, oh, somebody does corn, somebody does this, somebody does like runway. Like these are models, like people that model, whether it's model themselves or model clothes or model shoes or jewelry, models. What I believe is going to happen is that a lot of these models that were able to be successful and compensated in the male gaze are going to have, again, internally, the first opportunity to decide whether or not they're willing to continue to stay silent and in that box that they're wanting to be kept held in for the sake of being used to perpetuate the propaganda that is going to be necessary to keep pushing us into this direction America wants to go in, which is trad wives, and then using those trad wives to demonize non-trad wives to make sure that women don't have access to any other community other than wanting to be a wife and being a wife and a mother. But and again, women already know what this feeling is, but patriarchy wants the threat of you being excommunicated by the male gaze to be the thing that makes you afraid of missing out on all the benefits that would be endowed to you if you were married or if you were just accepted by the traditional society. But since a handful of these models are rich, and again, I don't want to judge or like assume anybody's financial status, but I believe they're more wealthy than a lot of us regular people. They have the opportunity to see beyond the bounds of what marriage can afford them, because the things that marriage can afford them, they already have access to. But on top of that, now as long as they stay in a space like that, they aren't entitled to somebody else's complete control. Now, what I think patriarchy does is starve women out that exist like that, and then making sure that if women do create communities, they're going to be like Salem witch trial. But it's starve you out to stop you from thinking that not only could you pursue a life completely independent on your own 2 feet beyond male gaze, but you could also be supported instead of like you were supported in compensation by a community of men who desire to sleep with you and women who desire to be you. You're now going to be compensated in more than just money and desirability by a community of women who are not only inspired to be you, but on top of that, inspired to support you in more ways than just gratifying themselves with your existence. And they actually want to hear those ideas that exist inside of you. They actually want to be there for you in ways more than a traditional patriarchal man or patriarchy itself can be there for you. They actually want to provide and support and accommodate and love. And then you're going to realize, wait a second. Not only does marriage set up as a front, and again, I'm not saying I'm not anti-marriage at all, but patriarchal marriage, not only does that set up as a front to get me to think that the only type of community that I can be in is, a family, and then, a family owned by somebody else's name, but also it wants to stop me from thinking that the second I stop competing against other women for the acceptance of or the validation of men, and I start to build with other women for the actualization of myself, infinitely more possibilities exist literally within my own 2 hands, rather than in the salvation that I would be waiting for in an unhealthy or a toxic marriage. And also I can become something more than just enslaved to my womb and the usage of my womb by other people. Which is, the Joan of Arc story is just a perfect representation of exactly that. But, and again, it's going to be a trying time because the male gaze has a lot of the money right now. So they can say, oh, we're going to, first what they're going to try to do for a lot of these models who continue to speak out, whether it's against, political issues that the mainstream wants to go through, or they're just willing to speak for women beyond masculinity and, patriarchy, they're going to first say, we're going to take away all your opportunities. No modeling gigs, no showing up to the events, no access to these people, no fake relationships so you can keep your name alive. And they're going to try to starve you, thinking that you don't have anything on the other end of this, thinking that they've already, in creating this impossible or this achievement of marriage, nobody else will try to build anything else. But this is why, and this is how this almost scales over into creative artists, and how we are either being told, not to get too off of the point, we're being told, hey, chase this algorithm so you could keep people on our tech platforms or risk not being compensated for being an artist ever again. So we have to decide whether we're willing to go broke as fuck and really pursue the art that we are and maybe find people that want us, or continue to chase corporate culture, continue to chase the content and chase the algorithm and really lose our soul in pursuit of that. Because we never know where we're going at that point. We're just being used to literally push propaganda and agenda into, again, a bunch of other people that are influenced by our position or by our ability. So now, to get right back to the point, and again, I should have put this in the beginning of the video. This probably isn't even my place to have a conversation, but as somebody who has all types of people, men, women, gays, theys, in my community, I want everyone to be a part of this conversation, to realize that we have to be beyond our identity, not just our gender identity, but our socialized identity, because our fullness of our potential exists within us. And the only way that we can access that is through self-discovery and through a lot of healing, because healing comes first before we can accept ourselves enough to know that we are gifted, we are talented, we are intelligent, especially people who've been socialized by traditional mainstream oppression and propaganda. Because most of that propaganda doubles down as a means to not only reinforce our own insecurities and to stop us from accessing self-acceptance, but to coddle and to reinforce the insecurities of the dominating demographic, so they can continue to feel like they can believe in this system enough to oppress their neighbors, other human beings, for the sake of letting rich people run through this shit like a muck. Understand, every single time a model gets up on here, bro, she's sacrificing more dollars to speak for you people. So I hope that you people who support these models or act like you do, I hope you genuinely support them independently outside of the career that they were able to build in this patriarchal economy. And we're going to see an amazing world and a lot more influence and inspiration, because the furthest end of seeking cash through the male gaze is just being a prostitute.